Hello student. So this video lecture is prepared for the heat transfer subject and I will discuss the unit number 5, heat exchange equipments. In previous lecture we have already discussed nomenclature of heat exchangers, that means how that heat exchangers are given a name according to their application. Now in this lecture we will discuss the remaining part, that is how to classify the different types of heat exchangers, and then we will discuss one by one that heat exchangers like double pipe heat exchanger, shell and tube heat exchanger and other types. So first we will discuss what is the or how we can classify the heat exchangers. So generally it is classified as a double pipe heat exchangers, shell and tube heat exchangers. And shell and tube heat exchangers is again classified in a 4 types: fixed tube sheet heat exchanger, floating head heat exchanger. In that there are again 2 types: internal floating head, outside pack floating head. Then third one is the U-tube heat exchanger, and fourth one is the reboiler, or it is also called a kettle type heat exchanger. In reboiler there are also 2 types: internal floating head or with U-tube, or it is also called a hairpin. And there are some special types of heat exchangers like fin tube heat exchangers, or it is also called extended surface heat exchangers, plate type heat exchangers, scrapped surface heat exchangers. So from now we will discuss one by one heat exchanger. So first we will discuss the very simple type of a heat exchanger, that is known as the double pipe heat exchanger. So this is the actually schematic figure of the double pipe heat exchanger. It consists of concentric tubes, that means it is having tubes and there is another tubes, that is called a concentrating tube. Then connecting teeth, so this is called a connecting teeth. Return head, this is called a return head, and return bend, so this is called a return bend. The packing gland support the this is called a gland. So these are used for the packing of the inner pipe within the outer pipe. So double pipe means generally one pipe is there and from that pipe outside there is another pipe is provided. So it is called a double pipe heat exchanger. And this arrangement is called a single hairpin. So what is meant by single hairpin? Like a hairpin, the diagram is look like that. So it is called a single hairpin. So if there is another return bend is provided, and if we again join with 2 pipes, then it is called a double pipe. So similarly we can increase the length of, or we can say number of hairpins in these heat exchangers. Teeth are provided, so this is called a teeth with nozzles. So this is nozzle for entry and exit of the fluids, annulus fluid. So when the fluid is flowing through in between the pipe, so this is called a annulus fluid. And this heat exchanger can be assembled in any pipe fitting shop. One fluid is passing inside the heat exchangers. So suppose this is the one fluid, maybe hot or cold, and another fluid passing through the annular space. So this is called a annular space created between the 2 concentric pipe, and this may be flow in a co-current or counter-current direction. So we have already discussed this point. Co-current means in one direction both the fluids, and if the fluids are enter in a opposite direction, that is called a counter-current. And these heat exchangers is having standard size, that means this is effective length. So from here to here it is called the effective length. And what are the effective lengths? Sometimes it is a up to 3.65 meter, sometimes it may be 4.57 meter, and sometimes it may be 6 meter. And what is meant by effective length? The distance of each leg over which the heat transfer occurs is known as effective length. So here suppose the heat transfer is occur, or here, that is called the effective length. So these tubes are standard tubes which is used in industry. Then I will show the actual figure of the double pipe heat exchanger or actual photo. So in this case, this is the single hairpin. Okay. So if we again add the return bend and again two pipes, so this is also called a legs. So then it will become double hairpin heat exchanger. So again, if you add here any return bend and again connected two pipes, then it is called a triple. So in this way, we can increase the length of this heat exchanger. So if we look at this figure, so this is the double pipe heat exchanger, this is the return bend. Again, this is a single, this is double, this is triple. So in this way, we can arrange the heat exchanger according to your application. So here also, here this is the one hairpin, this is the two, this is the third, this is the fourth. So in this way, we can arrange this heat exchanger according to their application or according to their heat transfer load. Then what are the advantages of this heat exchanger? It is simple in construction. It is having less cost and it is easy to clean. And what are the disadvantages of this heat exchanger? Small heat transfer surface in large floor space as compared to the other types. That means it gives the small heat transfer surface and it required slight large floor space. Floor space means just a room requirement is higher as compared to the other heat exchangers. Dismelting required large time. That means sometimes, what is meant by dismelting? You have to dismelt this heat exchanger for maybe some maintenance purpose, or you have to check the leakage in this heat exchanger. So for that purpose, you have to dismelt. That means you have to open these nozzles, bends, teeth. So that time is very large as compared to the other heat exchangers. And maximum leakage point. Maximum leakage point means there may be leak the liquid because this double pipe heat exchanger is having lot of joints. So here there is a joint, here joint, again here is the return bend. So this heat exchanger is having lot of joints, so there may be chances of leakage. Okay, maximum leakage point, that means the fluid, it may be cold or hot, maybe leak from this pipe or from this pipe connection. So these are the three disadvantages of the double pipe heat exchangers. And where we can use this heat exchanger, so, or we can say the application of this heat exchanger. This heat exchanger is used in a refrigeration system. So here we know that for cooling the process fluid, we use the refrigeration system. Or in home also we have having the fridge. So in that fridge there may be use of double pipe heat exchanger because it is having small heat transfer area. It is easy to clean and it is having less cost. So by using this advantage, we can use as a heat exchanger in a refrigeration system or any other company or industry whenever there is small surface area required for the heat transfer. So if you don't want very large surface area or very large heat load, at that time you can use this double pipe heat exchanger. Now the next type of a heat exchanger is known as the shell and tube heat exchangers. So these type of a heat exchangers are generally widely used in a chemical industry. Okay. So every chemical industry there may be double pipe or shell and tube, but shell and tube heat exchangers are having larger application in a chemical industry. So what is meant by shell and tube heat exchanger? A shell and tube heat exchanger consists of number of parallel plates. That means it is having parallel plates. At the end of these plates are mounted in a tube sheet. So I will show the figure, then you will understand this. First we discuss only the construction and then we will explain. And these tubes are expanded, or we can say they mounted in the tube sheet, and it is called a tube bundle. So there are number of tubes enclosed in that sheet, and there is a cylindrical shell. That means there is a, we can say, some types of a cylindrical shell is provided on their tubes, and the heat transfer area or surface is offered by the tubes. And in this heat exchanger, one of the fluid is flowing through the tubes and it is called a tube side fluid, and while the other fluid or outer fluid flow through the space created between tube and shell. That means outside the tubes. So that fluid is called a shell side fluid. Okay. Note that these two fluids are in thermal contact, but they are physically separated by wall of the metal. Okay. That means they are having a thermal contact. That means they may be transfer heat from one point to the another point, but they are not in physical contact. That means they are not mixed with each other. So it is called a physical contact. Okay. And heat flow through the metal wall of the tubes from the hot fluid to the cold fluid. Okay. So when none of fluid, means any fluid, does not condense or evaporate, that unit or that exchanger is called a heat exchangers. And when if we condense the fluid in that heat exchanger, it is called a condenser. Or if we evaporate that fluid, that is called a heater. So depending upon their purpose, we can classify the shell and tube heat exchanger as we have previously discussed. So students, we have now concluding the lecture. So in this lecture we have discussed what are the classification of the heat exchangers. So this is the classification: double pipe, shell and tube, and there are some special types of heat exchanger. Then we have discussed what is the construction and the working of double pipe heat exchanger, and then we discuss what are the advantages and disadvantages of the double pipe heat exchanger and what is the application. And then in the last point we have discussed introduction to the shell and tube heat exchangers. So the details of the shell and tube heat exchangers we will discuss in the next lecture. So thank you.